welcome back to another video. My name is Carla, and if you're new here, please hit the subscribe button and show me some love. And if you're not new here, then welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to be talking to you about how I sleep trained my son. If, like me, you just dream of your baby sleeping through the night and you are at your wit's end like I was, then watch this video till the end to see all of my tricks that I used to get my son to sleep through the night. So to give you a bit of a background of how Devonte used to sleep, he slept in a co-sleeper bassinet next to my bed up until he was 6.5 months. At 6.5 months, we moved him into his own room, and that's where he's been sleeping ever since. From about 0 to 3 months, he was a pretty good sleeper in that he would wake up about 3 times a night to breastfeed and he'd go straight back to sleep, and that was absolutely fine with me, especially since he was just next to me. That was fine. And then from 3 months to 7 months, he would wake up about 5 times a night and he wouldn't settle so fast, and yeah, my sleep became a distant memory. With Devonte's nighttime sleep, the thing that we struggled with was that I'd put him down and he'd go down fine, and then about 40 minutes later, so after one sleep cycle, he would wake up thinking that the nighttime is a nap, and then he'd be awake then. So it was getting him to stop doing, like, you know, to sleep for the 40 minutes and link his next sleep cycle, because it literally every single night on the dot he would wake up after 40 minutes crying. So I'd put him down and I just knew that that wasn't it. That wasn't, you know, I couldn't then make the dinner and eat and get ready and have a shower. I knew, because I'd be back in there 40 minutes later trying to resettle him. So that was our main obstacle. By 6.5 months, I was over it. I just thought, I just want to do something. I'm at my wit's end. I'm so tired. So that's when I started to look into sleep training. I just wanted him to be as comfortable as he could, and I wanted to do it gradually. I didn't want to just throw him in the deep end all at once, because and if you can do that, that's absolutely fine, but I just couldn't do that, and I wanted to do it as gradual as I can without shocking him too much. So the first thing I done was I downloaded the Huckleberry app, which is an app where you can track your baby's sleep. So every time your baby goes down for a nap, you log it, and in the end, after like a week, it will give you a whole chart of how your baby has slept, and you can sort of see what sleep pattern your baby has. Depending on your baby's age, they have appropriate awake times. And on this app, it was saying that my baby's awake time would be around 2 to 2.5 hours. So what I would do is just try and, you know, stick to that as best as I could. In the end, his schedule was like clockwork. He would wake up at 7. I would actually wake him up at 7. So whether he, if he wanted to sleep in, I would wake him up just so that I could get him on a schedule. Because if he slept in till say 8 and then his awake time was 2 hours later, then his nap would be at 10 rather than 9. It would just throw the whole schedule off. So he would wake up at 7 and first nap was always at 9 o'clock, and that was like clockwork. When you're making the routine for your baby, I would just settle them back to sleep however you normally do, if that's rocking or feeding to sleep, just to get them in that routine. At this point, he was sleeping in his own room, so I moved him into his own room at 6.5 months. And the way I did it was I gradually, I did all of his day naps in his cot from like maybe 6 months, just to get him used to the room. And then one night I decided to actually put him in his own room from then on. So, but he was still waking up like 5 times a night, so I'd actually have to go from my room, walk into his room and see to him, yeah, up to 5 times. It was hard, I'm not gonna lie, because at least when he was next to me, I could still sort of be in a daze. But to actually have to walk from my room all the way to his room, it would wake me up so much, and I think that's what made me even more tired as well. But I think if you want to do this sleep training gradually, it probably is best to introduce them to their new sleeping environment beforehand. I then introduced some positive sleep associations. So some people think that sleep associations aren't a positive thing. I personally do. They're a baby and it's just something that will comfort them instead of you. Like if you're not going to be in there and they find comfort out of something else, then I think why not? So this is Devonte's comforter. It's by the brand Bubba Blue and we call him Bubba. So it's just like a giraffe. It's got fluffy fur on the front and on the back is some silk. And then he also uses a dummy. He's used a dummy since he was a newborn. So what I did, and it's probably not SIDS recommended, so I'm not telling you to do this at all, but I got a dummy clip, an old dummy clip. This is just like a piece of ribbon, and I cut off the clip and I sewed it onto Bubba's hand so that I could attach a dummy to the end. So I can just put a dummy on there, just in case, because if he's gonna drop his dummy in the night, at least he knows that there's one attached to Bubba. So he, I give him a dummy, and then yeah, if he drops it, then he knows that this one is here. Other sleep associations that I introduced were his white noise machine, which I spoke about in my last video of my baby favourites. I'll put it here so that you can watch that video, but it's the Oricom white noise machine, and we use that for every day nap and every night to sleep. Another thing that I believe is a sleep association for him is a sleeping bag. So I don't use blankets in the cot because he moves around so much, he'd end up kicking them off. So I use a sleeping bag for every nap and every sleep. So once I found my routine and I had my sleep associations, then I started to introduce self-settling, which is what sleep training is all about. It's teaching your baby to self-settle so that if they wake in the night to stir like we all do, they're able to just, you know, realize, oh, okay, I'm in bed, and go back to sleep. So that's what sleep training is in a nutshell. So to start with the self-soothing, what I did was I started with the day naps. So the first time I done it, it was his first nap at 9 o'clock as normal. He knew it was time to sleep. I put him in his sleeping bag, turned on the white noise machine, put his comforter next to him, and I laid him down, said goodnight, walked out of the room, and I watched him on the baby monitor. And I think I was lucky because he literally just rolled over and fell asleep, and that was it. If he hadn't have fallen asleep on his own, I would have gone in there and patted his bum and shushed him until he did fall asleep. But I never actually had to do that, but that was the plan that I had in my head, that I would pat and shush. Once I was confident that he knew how to self-settle because he was doing it in the day with his naps, one night I just knew, okay, tonight's the night. You know, he wasn't unwell, he wasn't teething or anything like that, so I knew that it was a good night to start. So the way I done it, I put him down for bed that night and he fell asleep straight away. So no crying, nothing. 7 o'clock, put him down, walked out of the room, and he fell asleep straight away. However, he then woke up 40 minutes later, as he always does. Because in the day, if he woke up from his naps, I would go in there and wake him, you know, get him out of his room. It was a bit of a struggle for him to get back to sleep because he kind of thought in his head that it was a nap as normal. So what I did was I decided to leave him, see what happens, and if he cried, then I gave it 15 minutes. You can do this in a more gradual way. So if you wanted, you could go in after every 2 minutes, every 4 minutes, or, you know, a smaller amount of time. But for me, I knew that if I went in there and he saw me, then it would just make it worse, because every time I would walk out of the room then and close the door, he would just crack it and get even worse. So I just left it for 15 minutes to just give it a bit of a longer stretch for him to try and self-settle. So he woke up after 40 minutes and he started to make a noise, but he wasn't crying. So I didn't go in there. Then he started to actually cry. So at this time I I left him, I had a shower, I had the baby monitor with me at all times, just so that I could check on him, you know, if he bumped his head on the cot or anything like that. You do want to make sure that your baby's safe, and they are literally just crying because they want you. So I kept the monitor on me the whole time while I was in the shower, and I left him. After 15 minutes, I went into his bedroom and I laid him back down, stroked his head, and I said, like, Mummy's here, Mummy loves you so much, but it's time to go to sleep. And that is something that when I researched, they said, you know, use the same phrase every time. So that was mine. Mummy's here, Mummy loves you, I'm watching you, but it's time to go to sleep. So I did that, walked out of the room, and I felt really bad. I did. It's really not nice, but if I had known what happened next, then, you know, I definitely would have done it. I would do it again, because so then in my head it was, okay, wait another 15 minutes. And so I waited. I was on FaceTime to my mum at the time, actually, just for a bit of support. She lives in England. And after about, what was it? After about 10, I think it was 12 minutes, so he didn't reach the full 15 minutes. After 12 minutes, the crying just stopped and he fell asleep. So that was great, and then I felt really good, like, oh, okay, so he is able to do it. I just, you know, left him, and then I was kind of dreading like the next wake up, because then at that point it would be later on in the night, and, you know, I think I'd feel a bit worse, but I was going to do it regardless, but he didn't wake up. He fell asleep and slept through the whole night, and he has slept through ever since. Literally, that was all it was. He cried for 15 minutes and then like 12 minutes, and that was it. And now he's slept through the night ever since. So I don't know what point it was that helped, but yeah, it worked. And I can't believe that it did. So there are all of the things that I did to get him to sleep. One thing I will mention is the week before I decided I was going to start sleep training, I stopped giving him milk throughout the night. So to resettle him, I would just rock him. I made sure he's on 3 solid meals a day plus milk, so I knew that he was full. I'd give him a nice dinner and make sure that he's, you know, eaten a fair bit. So yeah, for the week before I started sleep training, I wasn't feeding him back to sleep. I would just rock him back to sleep, so that when it was time to sleep train, he wasn't used to waking up in the night to feed. So he didn't wake up for hunger, he didn't wake up for comfort, he literally just slept through the whole night. And then at 7 o'clock the next morning, I went in and woke him up, and we started our day like that. And then he slept through the night after that, he slept through. I put him down, he cried. Okay, he cried for about 2 minutes, which was fine, and then he went straight to sleep, and then the next night he didn't cry. So yeah, it worked really good for us. And I don't know if it was his age or the way I did it gradually, but so he was 7 months when I'd done the sleep training, probably like 7 months and 1 week. He was used to his sleep associations, he had a good routine, and he wasn't having milk in the night before that. So I think those things combined helped us out massively. Something that helped me out was just the thought that if I want to just pick him up and hug him, I totally can. No one is stopping me. I can do that if I want to. But yeah, I was so ready to do it, because my sleep, my mental health, everything was just crazy because of the lack of sleep I was getting. So I knew I was ready. But yeah, the thought that, you know, if I want to pick him up, I can. That's absolutely fine. That helped me out a lot. And yeah, that's how I sleep trained my son. So every now and again he will wake up, he's teething, he's just cut another tooth, so he will wake up every now and again because he is teething, but just on a regular, if he's fine, he will always just sleep through the night. So yeah, I hope that my story helped you get some tips. I hope I've, you know, covered everything. If you do have any questions, please leave them in the comments below and I'll answer them. I do reply to every single comment that I receive. I hope you found this video helpful and it gave you a bit of insight into my sleep training journey and gave you a couple of new tips and ideas that maybe you haven't heard already. If you did like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. I make other videos similar to this. And thank you so much for watching. Bye!